I was 8 years old when my father brought home our first computer. I still remember how carefully he carried it, like it was something sacred. He let me play around in a drawing program, showing me how to move the mouse. He taught me how to click without breaking anything. To my parents, the computer represented the future. Opportunity. Progress. But the internet? The internet terrified my father. He treated it like a loaded weapon. Something powerful, dangerous, and never to be used without supervision. An uncle once warned my mother that the internet was full of things that could warp a child's mind. At the time, I thought he was exaggerating. Years later, I realized he wasn't wrong. When I was finally allowed online unsupervised, I didn't care about shopping or classifieds. I gravitated toward the darker corners. Discussion boards filled with theories, psychology threads, religious debates, and stories that felt off. That's where I found it. A post buried deep in an old discussion forum. No images, no links to articles, just a long block of text with a simple title, The Girl Who Wasn't a Girl. The story claimed to be real. According to the post, a young father in Eastern Europe had installed a baby monitor. He wanted to keep an eye on his newborn. One night, when he checked the feed, he didn't see his child sleeping peacefully. Instead, he saw a boy, older, maybe 6 or 7, bound and gagged in the corner of a filthy cellar. Police were called. They traced the signal to a nearby house and discovered 2 sisters living together. One had 2 young sons. The other had recently adopted a quiet teenage girl named Elena. The boys were the only ones with injuries, burns, cuts, bruises. Elena was untouched. Investigators learned something far worse than abuse. Elena wasn't a child. She wasn't even a teenager. She was a grown woman in her 30s, suffering from a rare condition that allowed her to convincingly pose as a child. She had manipulated the sisters completely, convinced them punishment was necessary, righteous, even deserved. By the time authorities realized who she truly was, she had vanished. Weeks later, she was found in another country, posing as a young boy, already embedded in a new family with small children. The forum spiraled after that. Some users claimed she was connected to an obscure religious movement obsessed with creating a perfect messiah. Others insisted that was nonsense, that people were just desperate to explain something evil that didn't come with a reason. I closed the thread feeling sick, not because of cults, not because of conspiracies, but because everything in that story was real enough to be possible. These days, I think about what my uncle said all those years ago, about the internet being full of disturbing things, but the internet isn't where those things come from. It's just the window, and sometimes once you've looked through it, you can't unsee what's already out there, waiting. I stumbled across the link late one night while scrolling through a Craigslist psych discussion forum. I wasn't looking for anything specific, just killing time, reading threads about lucid dreaming and conspiracies. That's when I saw the post. Live feed, smiling man, watch if you dare. No description, just a single link. Something about it felt off in a way that made me curious instead of cautious. Against my better judgment, I clicked it. The stream loaded almost instantly. A man sat in a plain wooden chair in the middle of an empty room. The lighting was flat and harsh, like something out of a hospital or interrogation room. He stared directly into the camera, unblinking, wearing a wide, stiff smile, the kind you see when someone's forcing themselves to look happy. At first, it wasn't terrifying, just strange. I waited for him to move, a blink, a shift, anything, but he didn't. His eyes stayed locked on the camera, his smile frozen in place. I checked the timestamp, live. The chat box was empty, no other viewers, just me. 5 minutes passed, then 10, then 20. He still hadn't moved. No blinking, no fidgeting. Nothing, except the faint rise and fall of his chest. The longer I watched, the more unnatural it felt, like he was daring me to look away first. Then I heard a sound. At first I thought it came from my apartment, but it got louder. An unmistakable creak, like footsteps on old wood. The smiling man didn't react. The sound continued, echoing softly through the feed. A shadow flickered across the far wall. My stomach dropped. Someone else was in the room. A figure slowly stepped into frame, blurry at first, then clear enough to make my breath catch. A man in dark clothing, a ski mask pulled tight over his face. In his hands, he held a sledgehammer. He didn't seem to notice the camera right away. He scanned the room, gripping the hammer, then froze when his eyes landed on the man in the chair. The smiling man didn't move. The intruder took a cautious step forward. He waved a hand inches from the man's face. Nothing. No reaction. No blink. The intruder whispered something, too quiet for the microphone to pick up. The smiling man stayed perfectly still, staring straight ahead, grin unchanged. That's when the intruder backed away, slowly, nervously. Then he turned and ran. I heard a door slam somewhere off screen. The room fell silent again, save for the low hum of the camera. The smiling man never flinched. I closed the tab immediately, my heart pounding, but the image of that frozen smile stayed with me long after. I've never gone back to that stream, but sometimes I wonder how many people have found it since, and who's really watching. Before I moved out of my parents' place, my little cousin destroyed my PlayStation. One spilled drink, one sizzling pop, and just like that, the console was dead. A few hours later, bored, snowed in, and desperate for something to do, I opened Craigslist. That's when I saw it. A PlayStation 3 listed for $100. The post claimed it worked perfectly. The seller said he needed cash urgently. It felt wrong, but desperation has a way of quieting common sense. I texted the number. The response came almost immediately. He suggested we meet in the parking lot of an abandoned Kmart on the edge of town. Cash only. Quick exchange. He didn't want to sit in his car freezing. That should have been my first real warning. When I pulled into the lot, it was empty. Completely. Just one dark car parked far away under a dead light pole. A man in a hoodie leaned against the driver's door, watching me approach. He raised a hand casually and asked if I had the cash. His voice was calm. Too calm. He gestured to the back seat and said the console was there if I wanted to check it out. I stepped out, walked over, and opened the door. Inside was a box, but not the right one. It wasn't sealed. And when I lifted the lid, it wasn't a PlayStation at all. Just an old, dust-covered console that looked like it hadn't worked in years. That's when I felt him step closer behind me. I turned just enough to see the gun. He pulled it from his waistband and told me to hand over the money or I was dead. His voice never shook. Not once. As I reached for the envelope, I noticed something else. Someone crouched low in the driver's seat watching me, silent. Still. This wasn't a scam. It was a setup. And I knew, deep down, that if I followed their next instruction, I wouldn't be coming home. Instead of handing the money directly to him, I tossed the envelope into the car and ran. The first gunshot cracked the air behind me. The second kicked up asphalt near my feet. I dove into my car as another shot shattered my rear window. I slammed the door, started the engine, and floored it. I didn't stop driving until I was home. I locked every door and sat in the dark for hours, shaking. The broken glass in my back seat glittered like a warning. They didn't want my money. They wanted me. And I still don't know why they decided not to finish the job.